Welcome to Swan News here with Kevin Clark. I am Kevin Clark.
Yeah.
All right, Chris Mad Dog Russo. He hosts from 3 to 6 on Mad Dog Sports Radio. He hosts MLB Network's High Heat every weekday, and you can see him on ESPN's First Take with Stephen A. Smith once a week. I have one big question, and I want to talk about Zach Wilson, a number of things going forward here, but I have one big question. I have a son coming in 2 months. We are equidistant. I mapped this out. We are equidistant from Yankee Stadium and Citi Field. I do not care about New York baseball. How should I raise my son as a baseball fan, Chris Russo?
Mets, National League. Better ballpark, number one.
Okay.
Than Yankee Stadium. They've only won 2 championships.
Sure.
The fan is a little younger fan. The Yankee fan's a little older. The Yankee Stadium's like a museum. Like going to a museum. The Met Stadium is a stadium. The owner now is going to spend some money.
Yep.
They're a little hipper as a franchise. And there's a little friendlier culture. The Yankees can be a little aloofish. I would say Mets myself. I would say Mets. If you had to make a choice, Mets, Yankees, I would go Mets. Plus the National League, older than the American League. The other way around. American League older than the National League. But I would go. I would make him a Met. Listen, that's not my ideal thing. I would pick Giants, but I would make him a Met more than a Yankee fan.
All right, so let's talk about Zach Wilson, which is I didn't know it would get this bad this quickly because there's only a couple of things he needed to be able to do. Complete a short pass is one of them, or say, I'm sorry, this one's on me. We just said the second guest on the show is Calvin Johnson. And he basically said that it is so easy for you in the locker room to take responsibility for something. And the way he's posturing himself, it's accelerating the process of getting him out of New York. Like, this is going to happen quicker than we ever thought. Because, listen, you have to meet with ownership. You have to meet with the GM before you're going to bench a second overall pick in the draft, Chris. But at this point, there's no reason to keep him if he's going to play like this and then act like this. It's so easy to get up there, this in the New York media and say, no one's going to work harder than me. We're going to fix this. I'm going to grind. I can't promise everything, but we're going to do this. I can't believe how bad it's gotten this quickly, Chris.
100% right. I mean, the Jets are obviously going to give him the next 6-7 games. I don't think they go to Mike White, nor should Saleh done that yesterday, but he's very immature. He made a big deal about how the rest of the world doesn't know anything about football compared to the teammates and his team, which you can't do in New York City. We've been following football a lot longer than he's been playing it. He's a very immature kid, and his performance really all year has been spotty, but his performance yesterday was abominable. I mean, 2 yards of offense. They couldn't get a couple of first downs in the last, whatever it might be. I know people are killing Saleh for not putting the ball out of bounds. But you know what? That game was lost before then. They did a horrific job offensively. He was terrible in the game. And then he didn't take ownership of the defeat as a quarterback who's the spokesman of his team. He's the messenger to the media and the fan base. The quarterback's got to go up there and say, my bad, my fault. This is unacceptable. We had 102 yards of offense, and he did nothing of that nature. So Garrett Wilson did more than he did. So That was a horrific performance. Again, I think the Jets are probably alarmed by his behavior, and they're probably, very nervous about what they have at the position. Joe Douglas can bring in all the great offensive linemen he wants, but if Joe Douglas fails with the quarter, Donald wasn't on him. This man is on him. And if he fails, that's on Douglas. And, right now, I would be very, very concerned by him. I know Mac Jones wasn't great yesterday either, but he threw for 246 yards. They did miss 2 field goals. Their offense isn't great either. The Jets did not run the ball well yesterday. No, Breece Hall has killed them, but that was a miserable, awful performance. And you're right, his post-game exasperated it, which makes it worse. So I'd be very worried about the Jet quarterback right now. The immediacy is getting their season back on track. Listen, San Diego loses, so, there's less teams to worry about. Not many teams in the AFC who are going to fight for a playoff spot. I mean, I don't think the Chargers are. It's the Chiefs, the Ravens, the Bengals, and then, of course, and Tennessee, and then there's 4 in the AFC East. So only one of those teams in the AFC East is going to be knocked out. And the Patriots have a hard schedule. So, I wouldn't rule the Jets out of it by any stretch. But, and they should beat the Bears, but the Jets are going to have to beat a Buffalo, beat a Miami on the road to get in. We shall see if they can do that. as the season winds down. But a horrendous performance.
It's just brutal. I mean, one thing I can say is that Joe Douglas has earned enough trust with the rest of his roster to draft a second quarterback. I think that they can keep those pieces.
They're not going to get rid of him, so he probably will be in that situation. And I don't know what you are looking down the road. If Wilson plays poorly and his season implodes and he's terrible in the next 6-7 weeks, what are the Jets going to do? I can't answer that right now. The Jets are not thinking about that question right now because, in their mind, they got 7 games to go. And if he wins 4 or 5 of the 7 and they make the playoffs and has some good moments, they can move on with him and they can develop with him. But you're basically saying, well, hold on now, Chris. How about if they do collapse? It's a horrendous performance. He's immature. What do you do? The Jets don't want to think about that prospect right now.
I don't know what happens other than I don't think they're going to be in a position to draft a top quarterback. So then I think you're looking at the Jimmy Garoppolo, Derek Carrs, and maybe, I'm just going to throw this out there, maybe the Aaron Rodgerses of the world. I know that they probably don't want to go back to the well 14 years later and take another old Packers quarterback, but I'm just saying that could be the type of quarterback who gets shopped in February and March of this year.
Yeah, you know what? That will be basically the Jets collapse. What they do at the quarterback position will be very interesting. He hasn't played a lot, hasn't started a lot of games. They did take him with the second pick in the draft. Yep. They moved up to get to that second pick, if I'm not mistaken. So from that standpoint, they're going to be careful of unloading him when he's only played what? How many games he played last year? About 8-9 games? He missed the first 4 games this year. So you're talking about unloading a 22-year-old, 23-year-old, after 13, 15 games. That's a quick report card. I don't know what the Jets will do with that. He is very immature. He doesn't know how to handle the media. He doesn't understand in New York. You can't say the kind of stuff that he has to say. Maybe he improves, but even a Jet fan's down on him right now. The comments after the game yesterday were as bad as the performance in the game. And remember, he said some things in the past too. Nobody knows anything about football except guys in his room. He's been very dismissive of the New York Jet fan and the media guy in New York. And you can't, if you're going to play lousy, you can't do that. So that's a problem.